Hi, I'm Tolutu, the author of Why and How Women Are Exploited by Men Worldwide, and welcome to my channel. I hope that you will be seeing me and communicating with me very often and bringing all your friends there to this channel so that we can have a good time. What you're going to be hearing today is chapter 3 from my book Why and How Women Are Exploited by Men Worldwide. And the title of chapter 3 is A Male's Need to Control. And you say, well, okay, why is that important? Because all of the things that are set up and in place and that we are often, many of us, are annoyed and put out and exploited by men are really linked to the fact that males need or have a need to be in control. But let me share this with you as a side. And I often tell a lot of guys this. They come in two categories: the alpha and the omega. The alpha male is the one that's ruling and in charge, not of women, but of other men. And the omega is the one that's following the alpha. Let me just share this with you. 98% of the males are omegas, and the other 2% are alpha. So if you're wondering why they're always following this buddy around and doing what the buddy told them, because they are omegas. So the next time one of those guys piss you off, just tell them, get yourself on, your omega self on down there and see what your alpha had for you to do and want you to be and where you to go. And with that, I'm going to turn it over so that in this series, each chapter, you don't have to read. All you have to do is just come here and listen to the book being read to you, hoping that you will find it as interesting and as informative as I have and had intended it for it to be. And with that, don't forget, bring all your friends. Don't forget the book, Why and How Women Are Exploited by Men Worldwide, is on Amazon. And for you guys who have a Prime membership at Amazon, you can download this book free. See you at the next chapter.
Scant economic resources, limited opportunities, cultural traditions, marginalized young women and girls, and women in general worldwide. Equality of opportunity empowers women and girls, that allows them to not only make personal decisions about health, fertility, but it also empowers women and girls to be economically solvent. If you do not have resources, then you are going to find yourself as a female having some male ruling you and treating you in some instances a lot not as well as he may treat one of his work animals or pets. Gender bias is reinforced throughout adulthood as men retain economic and political power. Women worldwide suffer from two forms of loneliness. One is social loneliness. The second one is emotional loneliness. Social loneliness is brought on by a lack of a social network. Emotional loneliness is the absence of a close emotional relationship that superficial acquaintances cannot cure and won't impact or have any substantive effect in curing the emotional need of the emotional relationship loneliness. This is the emotional loneliness is the one that most women suffer from. Even women who have a relationship with someone, have a partner that they may be living with and sleeping with, cooking for, having children with, sitting in church on the Sabbath with, weekly, may still be emotionally lonely. This is the one that is so pervasive amongst women, and the one that has and continue to create and cause we women to overtalk, to have all kinds of emotional and psychological illnesses, chemical imbalances, as well as health problems. It creates all kinds of health problems. Overeating is a health problem that causes or contributes to diabetes, heart attacks, hypertension, arthritis. There is not any disease that isn't, disease means to be, not to be at dis-ease. It is not, a disease is something that has gone wrong. It is something has deviated from the normal healthy pattern. And over a period of time, this deviation will manifest itself in some form of disease or dis-ease. That's what disease means. You're not at, or that particular function is not at ease. It is deviant. Therefore, with this information, it is to emphasize, program, and inform females worldwide how important it is to first be aware that you as a female and many of the medical problems that you may encounter often are based on your being emotionally, psychologically, physically, and financially in distress, or not living with the things that will help you to stay healthy. And foremost and first of all, being happy with yourself and being in a happy positive surrounding is the first thing that one must work towards. Now, I am not unrealistic to say that life is perfect, and if your life isn't perfect, drop everything you're doing the way you're doing it and immediately run towards the perfect. That would be lovely if you could do that, but it's not always possible and realistic. And there are a number of reasons why it is not. Most of the women who are in relationships where they are relying upon their male partner for economics are not able to get up and leave. In addition to that, even if they did not need that person economically, in many parts of the world, or most parts of the world, shall I say, there still are no protection for females from males, any male, much less a male that they're in a relationship with, a husband, a boyfriend, a common-law husband, the father of their children. In most countries, it is perfectly acceptable for those men to beat and control those women in a much more brutal fashion than they would do and mete out to their work animals. This is a fact. This is not rhetoric. It's not conjecture. It's a fact. In most countries, men are allowed, protected, and expected to chastise females, be it their wife or whoever, physically as brutally as they like. That puts a female in a position of smiling and having to be nice and having to appear happy and to remain pleasant even in the worst situations. This is not healthy. It has surprised me that so many more men die earlier than females, because just this one factor alone is so detrimental and devastating to females. And the factor I'm speaking of here is having to, first of all, not feel good about yourself, and all of the psychological and physical health problems that create. And then childbearing, poor nutrition, and then on top of that, you have some male that you have to cow down to, and and I say male, change the word male and place in there boob.
In order for one group, in this case for the males, to control females, there are very specific things that must be put into place in order to dominate and control, virtually in many instances, enslave the other group. Amongst the things that must be in place, and in the case with females, I'm going to start off with something that most females have no control over, that is the pitch of our voice. Because we generally have thinner vocal cords, that creates a lighter and a higher pitched voice. I'm sure that you are aware of and have noticed on a personal level that when someone has a deeper voice, it is a lot more commanding. It commands respect and attention. You tend to stop and listen. The person, and most often we're talking now about males with this deeper voice, doesn't have to speak in the frequency that females do. The reason females say things over and over and over again is because that is the way that the female has to emphasize something because of the pitch of her voice versus a male's voice being deeper. I'm sure you have heard and have experienced yourself that even when you're speaking to your child, or you've seen other parents speaking to their child, the mother may say, or the woman may say something 10 times. The guy can walk in and say that same thing once, and the child responds. And again, this is because of the difference in the pitch of the voice. This works against females in a number of ways. If you are repeating yourself, whether it's to a child or to another adult, you're not taken as seriously, and it says that you're not definite and secure about the message, and the receiver isn't receiving your message, and so you keep saying it as a female over and over and louder and louder and louder, hoping to get your message through. The first thing that women have to do is be aware of this, number one, and then say, well, okay, this is a fact. This is the pitch of my voice. I am a female. I want to continue to have this voice. There's nothing wrong with it. But what do I need to do in order to say what I need to say and communicate it and have it mean what I want it to mean and have a sense of urgency? Those are the kinds of things, like with every other group, you have to learn to do things. You have to know first what things create what problems, and then what you may be able to do to either eliminate or at least minimize that situation. Now, going to the next thing that society have set up, and it's men who, it really have nothing to do with women. Women don't design any clothes, okay? It's guys, I guess they're guys or whatever. And their clothes have always been designed to make women, to encumber women, so that they either were defenseless, they were tripping or tipping or unable to run, sometimes unable to properly walk. Now, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with women's clothes. I love women's clothes. I like feminine clothes. But I am only saying here and talking about the different ways, historically right on through today, how men have been able to make women, one, appear weak and stupid and defenseless, and then how they needed to do that first so that they can control women. And again, if you are dressed in such a way, historically, where you could not breathe because you had some kind of corset on that was cutting off your breath, you couldn't do anything. You couldn't even breathe. So that you would look like you had a 20-inch waist when your waist was really 35. That right there has a lot of negative effects for you as a female, health-wise, just being able to function. And of course, you were, or appeared to be, and you probably were, very encumbered. You couldn't pick up anything. You couldn't bend. You couldn't stoop. You couldn't do anything because you had this corset on to make yourself look like you had a 28-inch waist, when in fact your waist, as I said, was 35. Now, it was not women who were the designers and still are not the designers of fashion. It has never been women who were determining the fashion in the sense of designing the clothing or the look or what constituted a beautiful or attractive woman. Has never been the decision of other women. It is always a male in some form who is designing and determining what women should wear and how they should look and how those clothing should fit them. I have never been able to understand, nor do I understand to this day, how it is and why it is that it is some form of a masculine person who knows better about what I should look like as a female and how it should fit me and what should be the latest fashion for me rather than a female. That makes no sense at all. And again, it just goes to validate what I am saying throughout this book about the exploitation of women being institutionalized, and that's a part of the institutionalization of controlling. You determine at what a person thinks. You provide, and you're in control of the medium that they go to for their decisions about themselves, and you've got that group in control. You add to that, one of the other points is, if you're not allowing women to be educated, if you're not sending them to school, if any idiot male boob wants to go to school even though he may not even be able to pick his nose, versus the genius female in the family, worldwide, if it's a choice between educating a male and educating a female, it will be the male that gets educated first. And the female, if she gets educated at all, will be the last choice in the family to be educated. That's one more, method of suppressing people, a group, females in this case, so that they can be controllable. If you're not educated, you do not have skills, then you're very limited. And you're at the mercy of those who you must rely on for your daily bread. You don't even, and when you don't allow a person to be educated, they don't have the opportunity to have other points of references, let alone your self-esteem. And if you're not educated, of course, you can't make any money. If you can't make any money, then what can you do without money? You need money to have a place to live. You need money for anything that you can think of. You require money in order to be able to do those things. Some of the other points that have been institutionalized against women is the cultural and legal structure and the social community structure for giving and leaving all the wealth to the males. females will only get the wealth when there's absolutely not another male left. I mean, everybody is dead, or there never was anybody else, and then the female will get it. Even at that point, where she may be, coming to this large inheritance, it is believed and felt by the typical boob that this female doesn't have the capacity and has not had the experience and the sense to manage and to keep her own money. And it would be better if she let him spend her money for her. And then lastly, but most importantly, is the doctrine of the psychology of the disenfranchised. Any group, be it based on race, or in this case based on sex, that is disenfranchised, that the dynamics of being a part of that group is not to have regard and respect for others that are members of the same group that you are a member of. Since you do not feel good about yourself based on being a part of the group that you are a member of, since that group population does not receive or have certain rights and privileges, then that takes on its own color of disrespecting each other, which is what women do. They will go 100 extra miles for some boob versus without questioning the boob, versus something that they could easily do and work with a female. But again, this is not because just being a female that makes it the case, as guys or males try to make pretend, and they talk about cat fights and all of this kind of thing. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with being a part of a disenfranchised group that make you disrespect yourself and dislike yourself and not hold yourself in as high esteem as you do a male. So therefore, you could not possibly hold a female on the same level or with the same esteem that you do the most idiotic boob male. I remember, and this always remember this particular incident that I encountered. I had been doing business with this particular post office branch at this point, for over 5 years. And when I say I had been doing business at that post office, I mean that, one, I had a post office box there that I had maintained there for many years. Two, I spent nearly $5,000 a year in postage and in general. And most of the times that I made postage purchases, it was done at that post office. So one of the female clerks, she was a young woman at the time, I guess in her early 20s, who had been seeing me since she had been a clerk there. And, I mean, I was not a post office customer. I was a customer. I was a paying customer. I was one of the people that kept the post office up and going and was paying her salary. I was spending almost half of what she was earning a year as a customer. So this woman was very well aware of my spending habit and the level of customer that I was. So this particular day I was in line, and there was a guy in line in front of me who was just a regular, ordinary guy. Well, when he got up to the window to spend his 30 cents or whatever it was he was going to spend, $1.20, she was most helpful. She was asking the guy questions about the method by which he might want to mail that particular letter that the guy wasn't even interested in exploring. She was giving him all kinds of options and explaining and telling him and the pros and the cons of this versus that. And she had the most beautiful smile. Oh, boy. I didn't even know the woman could smile like that. All I could see was teeth up there in the window. She had the most patience. She must have spent a good 20 to 25 minutes with this guy who I think had just dropped by that particular post office, and he spent less than $1. Whatever it was he was buying, in fact, I'm pretty sure it was less than 50 cents. Well, I'm standing in line patiently waiting my turn and watching all of this. And when the guy, I'm next in line, when the guy leaves her window and it's time for me to step forward, the big grin and the big smile and all the teeth, she closed the whole mouth up again. It was like she didn't have teeth. It's like she didn't know how to smile. And I told her before I could even get up to her window, I said, oh, no, you don't. You put that smile right back on your face for me that you had on your face for him. And all what you was willing to explain and show him about how to mail his letter, that I had never been able to get you to even address the various methods of mailing packages that were much more complicated than a regular first-class letter. You were, even when I was spending $15 to mail something, you were irritable and short-patient and ill-tempered with me and wanted me to hurry up and finish and get from in front of your window and step aside and write up what I need to write up so I wouldn't hold up the line. And I'm the person who's spending $5,000 a year. And this is a guy who doesn't even come in the post office. He had just one little letter he wanted to mail, or whatever it was he wanted to mail, that was less than $1. And here's the person you've got so much concern, respect, and adulation for, who that if you had to rely on him, you wouldn't even have a job. Now, that is the perfect example of what I'm talking about when I say that the sexual gender bias is institutionalized, because this woman, it never even dawned on her none of the factors that I was talking about. And I know some of you women are saying, oh, well, maybe she wanted to get with this guy. I don't think so. If you've seen this guy, he wasn't a hunk or anything. It wasn't nothing about him that, that you just ordinarily would say, gee, any woman who saw him would be taken with him. But he wasn't in that category. Look-wise, height-wise, dress-wise, there was nothing about him other than the fact that he appeared to be male, M-A-L-E. And that was enough for him to get and command all the respect in the world, much more respect than someone who was a female, who was one of the, if you had to divide your clientele or customers up into and distribute a status based on what they spent, I would have been in the on the high end, and he would have been non-existent. It wouldn't have made a difference if he never bought a stamp, because him buying one stamp that one time did not keep the post office open and did not keep her in her job. So you see, the male's need to control is a given, even when the male has not made an effort. His presence, just presenting himself or appearing to be a male, is enough to command respect beyond any other variables other than the fact that he's a male, he's there, he's presented himself, and that puts him in this category of requiring more respect and being given more respect than any female. So this postal worker, female worker, clerk, was merely doing what society has trained and taught her to do, and to how to think and divide people up based on a number of things, and in this case, the fact I was a female like herself, so therefore this male who was buying one stamp required a whole lot more genuine courtesy, helpfulness that he didn't want or need from her about how to mail his letter, and things of that nature. What is even more devastating and destructive about the male's need to control is that it has that position worldwide that men have about controlling in women has also further divided women into categories based on their controllability. All women are not equal in being as easily controlled by groups. By that I mean Native African American women are the most resilient, tough-minded. And I'm saying not tough, I want to emphasize tough-minded. They have been forced by a number of circumstances, and they've never been protected. So, being a product of slavery, you're supposedly, as men are supposed to protect you and the children. Black women have never had that traditionally. We have always had to get out and work, just as hard as the man. We have never been based on the fact that the families were torn up and the structure of the families. That has made us the very tough-minded women that we are, and that's based on, if you take women across the board throughout the world, Native African American women are number one in terms of being the most independent, the most self-assured, the most tough-minded, and the hardest working women in the world. We started raising our families and have always had to raise our families and participate way by ourselves and participate and be all the things that I talk about in this book way before a lot of other women have had to have all of the roles that we've had to carry. So when Native African American men began to look in recent times, began to look to other women versus in terms of dating and marrying versus their own Native African American women, it was because the other women were even more controllable than we were. Native African American women were. That's why they look to the other women. It is not because they look just physically. It's not just physical. Most things are psychological and have some other social contributions. Now, it's true that physical things are very important between men and women, and that absolutely has an important role. But if a woman is even more controllable and less likely to express herself verbally, for a male, that is a good thing. Even though this woman from this other group may not show any displeasure in his bad behavior, or may not, she may, after he's gone to sleep, pour some hot wax in his head to kill him. But I mean, she may not say anything, before he went to sleep, or she may get on the phone and call the IRS or whoever it is, and tell the people that he's cheated on his taxes, and leave a message over on the answering machine while he's asleep, and get up the next morning and fix him a fabulous breakfast and smile, and even take him back to bed for an extra dose. So different women have different cultural personalities and have been socialized in different ways. So all of these are functions that the male can use to determine which of those women or groups of women that he wants to deal with. In this particular case, I'm talking about the Native African American woman versus white women. In regards to Native African American men being attracted to his own women versus the white woman, I heard one guy say, I've heard this Native African male say one time that white women were soft, and he was saying that was his attraction to this particular white woman versus the Native African American woman that he was dealing with. Well, what he really meant was she didn't let him know that he was a boob. That's really what. That's all. And she wasn't. And she appeared in the little short period of time that they had been involved to be tolerating and not even aware of or dealing with the fact that he was the ultimate boob. And so, everyone wants to be with someone if they got, who makes them feel important and special regardless of how lowly their circumstances are. And if it seems as though the more of a boob the guy is, the more inclined he is to want to have someone, a female, that he can rule and over charge of. Now, this being in charge of and rule over in the 21st century often it's not displayed in a physical control. It is an emotional and psychological control. It is a slave mentality. I'm here, master. I love working extra hard for free to build you this marvelous country, and I'm perfectly happy just to, serve you. That's what everybody's looking for, and definitely men look for that. And their need to control. Now, since there is freedom today, in most places, where a woman, again, if she is emotionally and economically healthy and viable to move in and out of relationships with a man so that she may not be forced to stay in a bad situation. That is only if she is mentally and financially, and emotionally healthy. Oftentimes when you see, let me start with this. I would say the statistics have indicated that 99.9% of the women who are prostitutes are not prostitutes for economics. That is not what put them on that path. They became prostitutes because of either being abused as a child, having a drug dependency, and it was always the guy who got them on drugs. Any woman that you see in trouble, if she goes to jail, it was a guy who got her on that path and got her some jail time, got her involved in that. If she is on drugs, it was a guy who introduced her to drugs the first time she took it. That's who she did her first drug with was a guy. So, when women deviate from their normal, the normal behavior that people have, come to expect from women, it is a guy who has created this social, emotional problem that causes this woman to deviate in most instances. A great deal of the women who you see doing something that is not making any sense in terms of allowing a guy to dog her and abuse her and mistreat her, and
and she has everything available. Now, there are some cases where that happens and the woman is not in a position to do anything about it because of economics and where she lives. But in most Western cultures and cities in the 21st century, if you see a woman or a female who is unwilling or unable to move out of a relationship or involvement with some male who's abusing her, that is a woman that even though you may not be able to look at her and see that, she has a mental problem and an emotional problem that has nothing to do with that guy being great or her being in love with him. It goes into an emotional and mental, I'm going to say the word challenge, but I really want to use the word illness, that that fixation on him, or that it's like any other mental illness is so complicated, and emotional illnesses are so complicated that even the psychiatrists and psychologists have not been able to properly diagnose and treat it, and we all have, we move in and out of that, and we stay very near this little thin line border of going into that, each of us, every day of our lives. So that you can see a person, a woman who is doing everything. She's not foaming at the mouth. She's dressed well. She's got a great job. She's bought herself a home. She's driving a big car. And then she's got some boob who is talking to her and treating her like crap and humiliating her. Now, unless this is a woman who, like some men, who is very powerful and has the command of a lot of people under her in her business or on her job, that she's always in charge of making decisions, and sometimes want in her relationship for someone else to take on that very extreme role reversal. Unless that's the case, then this woman has a mental and emotional problem, okay? It's just as simple as that.